The world's largest retailer has been accused of suppressing the voices of its workers.
It's described as a cutthroat corporate jungle where workers are pitted against one another. 80-hour work weeks are the norm, and falling ill can mean you're out of a job.
I've felt the strain, I felt the stress, my knees would hurt, or my legs would hurt, or my back would hurt.
You all know that Amazon tracks their employees, but did you know that they track their employees not just in the warehouse, but outside of the warehouse? Did you know they set up fake Facebook accounts to monitor their employees outside of the workplace to make sure that they're not trying to unionize? This is the reality that we live in the 21st century, where companies feel like they have the right to monitor every aspect of their employees' lives.
At Amazon, we have a fun metric called TOT. Every single piece of work you do, every individual task, there's always a scan. You're scanning an item that's being sold, you're scanning a package that you just made, you're scanning an inventory location, there's always scans.
When it comes to understanding the way that employees treat their workers today, you need to understand the historical origin of hourly wages in and of themselves. Wage labor in the United States did not get popularized until slavery ended, by which I mean it was hidden away into prisons. After that, they developed the system of hourly wages and popularized it so they could have a similar level of control over workers, and they could make sure that workers were never paid enough to escape extreme poverty, and thus keep them desperate and willing to take low-paying jobs. The reason why that backdrop is important is because when you wonder how Amazon can get away with doing things like this today, it's because there was never any original right against this type of surveillance. The whole purpose of hourly wages was so that managers can have more influence and more direct supervision over the workers. It was explicitly for the purpose of increasing surveillance.
The computer system knows every single scan you've made. It knows when you make your first scan of the day, so when you begin working. It knows when you make your last scan before you go on break.
If you're paying an artisan a contract to produce a chair for you, you're not really interested in how they're making the chair. But if you pay them hourly, then you are going to make sure that they're using every single minute possible, so you pay them the lowest wage possible for that chair.
Leadership may say your break time is from your last scan when you leave to your first scan when you come back. If the scanning stops, if you don't have an excuse that is a good enough excuse, I had to go pray, I had to go to the bathroom, I went to take my break. If you don't have an excuse like that, you start to accumulate time off task, which is time you were not directly working, at least as can be recorded by the computer system.
And that's why Amazon today is monitoring their employees. They want to increase their profit margins to the maximum degree. And the easiest way for them to do that is to fire anybody that doesn't work at a breakneck speed and to monitor every single minute of their time to make sure that even bathroom breaks don't get in the way of even just a few minutes of productivity.
You are allocated a specific amount of time for those tasks. If you need to go to the bathroom, you get 8 minutes, including your walk time to go to the bathroom, before that TOT clock starts ticking.
Much like Elon Musk forced one of his workers to dress up like a robot for a ridiculous presentation, so too does Amazon metaphorically make people adopt the mindset of robots as they're forced to think about every single minute of their day when they're in the workplace, thinking about how can they maximize profits and move more efficiently instead of thinking about bathroom breaks and their family lives. This disregard for people's humanity leads to horrific, nightmarish stories like these.
Nearly every person I work with I saw cry at their desk, men included. To a woman who miscarried twins but went on a business trip the next day. Her boss, she says, told her, "I'm sorry, the work is still going to need to get done." And another woman who had thyroid cancer and was given a low performance rating after she returned from treatment.
And I'm certain that that is just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless people who work in Amazon warehouses whose lives are made miserable by the company treating them as robots. But human beings are not robots, and so people get upset and they organize. The unfortunate reality, though, is that Amazon is just the innovator, and other companies are likely to follow this model. Amazon's model is unbelievably profitable, and no matter what any other company says, they are going to look at that and think to themselves, how do I replicate their success? And this is where Amazon's surveillance gets even more sinister, as they are not constraining themselves to the confines of the workplace, but they are expanding onto Twitter and Facebook, setting up fake accounts to try and monitor what their employees are saying to make sure that they're not trying to unionize.
So yeah, Amazon put up 2 job listings in the last few months. One of them was up since January 6th of this year. And they were for an intelligence analyst and a senior intelligence analyst, especially the one for the intelligence analyst was interesting because it clearly spelled out that they were looking for someone that could monitor and track various threats, but it especially focused on what they called organized labor organizing threats.
This represents an escalation of anti-union tactics, where Amazon is clearly afraid that workers might unionize, especially in Bessemer, Alabama, where they are alleged to have used illegal tactics in their anti-union effort. One of the reasons why they're so terrified of unionizations is because they're probably afraid of the idea of having to treat their workers like humans. If there were a union in the workplace, it would make it a lot more difficult for Jeff Bezos to pretend his workers were just robots. This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with my content. You can also catch me on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with my show Galaxy Brain.